Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. Today we're going to jump into the Onxhunt map and show you guys how we e-scout for elk in a new area we've never hunted before. So we're going to go over a bunch of the features, some of the new ones including the 3D map on desktop, and they also have a new crop layer, like a data map that you can put on for ag fields. In addition to that, we're just going to show you guys what we look for when it comes to scouting elk, looking for water sources, potential wallows, where we may want to get high in glass to look for bulls, and where we may want to set things like trail cameras on popular transition routes and possibly water holes and springs and things like that. Well, before we jump into all that, guys, don't forget that we have a 20% off discount code for onXmap. It is always in the description box below. Most of the archery elk hunts out west start early. In Utah, our archery elk hunt actually starts in mid-August. So with that, you're going to be looking for bulls kind of in their summer patterns. It's definitely going to help you if you go out throughout June and July and start scouting and getting as much information as you can. So the bulls are typically grouped up in what are called bachelor groups. Bulls will hang out, I've seen them anywhere from 3 to 5 bulls, sometimes 10 to 15 bulls, just hanging out in their summer routines, and they're very patternable up until about the point that they rub their velvet. So once they rub their velvet, they really fall into this pre-rut time phase, and some bulls will actually completely move from where they summered all year. Some bulls will stick around for the rut right where they summer. Like I mentioned, early in the summer months, what we're really looking for is areas that we can get high in glass. We're looking for transition areas like dark timber to burns, or maybe dark timber to big meadows where bulls will like to spend their time feeding, which has the best food sources out in the open meadows, lots of grass and a lot of brush. After that, we'll look for things using all the different layers here on Onx, and we're gonna look for springs, water sources, and other areas that could potentially become wallows, which bulls will use once they rub their velvet to wallow, splash around, get muddy, and rake their antlers. All right, guys, we're just gonna go ahead and jump in a map to an area I've never been and show you exactly step by step what I'd be looking for if I was to scout for elk. All right, so right here we've got a mountain range, and you can see that we're actually in 2D. So it's just a flat layer. Most of you guys are familiar with Onx. You probably recognize this style. But the new feature that they have added, especially on desktop, is the 3D. And it's really easy to use. I want to show you guys how to get into 3D real quick. So on the bottom right corner, you can see down here where my mouse is, it says satellite and 2D. So just click that with your mouse and you can scroll over to the 3D map, and it will instantly generate a 3D populated map, which is awesome. This is one of my favorite tools to study elevation, to study vantage points, and it makes it a lot easier. And if you want, you can switch it to hybrid, and that will bring up all your topo lines and give you elevation lines, which I really like. And for those of you, I've noticed some really like to just look at a map in topo version. You can click that as well, and as you can see, you got everything in the topo lines. All right, so I prefer the satellite mode. It's my favorite mode because I can really follow tree lines. I can see when there's thick timber and not. So I'm going to show you guys in satellite mode. So check this out. If I was to be hunting elk right here, a few things that I notice are some creek bottoms, some little dots that are springs that can be very helpful, and then some big open hillsides, which are going to be very glassable. So if you zoom in right here, we'll just kind of take this area for an example. This mountain range kind of runs, it looks like northeast to southwest. So I'm just going to use this tool over here to scroll over so I can face it a little better. Just hit shift, use your left arrows, and then to zoom in, you can use 2 fingers, and if you don't have a mouse like me, I'm using this on a MacBook, you use your fingers to kind of zoom in and zoom out. As you can see, as I scroll my 2 fingers up, it scrolls out. When I use 2 fingers and scroll down, it zooms in. So take a look at this mountain range, and you just start to imagine, all right, where would elk be in the summer months where I can get high and glass elk? And one spot that really sticks out to me right here is this top. So this right here is almost like a volcano pyramid high point where I can glass up into these basins. And 2 things I'm looking for is north slopes, which is dark timber where bulls are gonna most likely bed in the summer months when it's hot. And then these open south facing slopes are definitely gonna provide good feeding opportunities up in these high basins and these south slopes. So I'm definitely gonna glass those first thing in the morning and last thing at light and try to locate some bulls. So now that I have this high point picked out, I'm gonna drop a waypoint. And to do it on desktop, all you do is scroll your mouse up to the top right. You can see there is a toolbar. The third one down is your waypoint, so just click that and it's gonna generate a bunch of different options for you to highlight the waypoint, to pick a color, and you can even add some notes. So let's do that real quick. So I'm gonna put this as glass, and it's not on my most recently used, as you can see. So I'm gonna hit the plus button and scroll down into alphabetical order, and you can see, if you just remember the alphabet, which I'm struggling with, you can see glassing area right here. And I'm gonna go ahead and keep scrolling because I wanna change it to blue, because everything I'm doing this year is gonna be set to blue, because this is an unknown area and you can kind of pick and choose which colors you wanna use. So I'm gonna drag this over to this high point and drop it right on top of that in blue. I'm gonna make a note for potential glassing point, and then hit save. So that's gonna save your waypoint right there. And then again, this information is gonna translate to your mobile app. So from there, I'm gonna show you guys what I'd be looking for water sources. And the nice thing is we've got the layer on and the springs are already popping out. And sometimes you'll notice as you zoom in and out, it'll actually show you more water sources. So I'm gonna zoom in, just take a look at this spring here. It's unmarked or unnamed, but I definitely wanna hit all the springs because they're potential spots to set up for wallows. They're great potential spots to set your trail cameras. So once again, I'm just gonna drop a couple pins on the 2 springs that I can see right here. So same thing, just click that waypoint, go ahead and let it generate, and then I'm gonna click add and look for the water source, which again in alphabetical order, you can see right here. He's gonna click water source. You can even highlight it as wallow, but because I haven't been there, I'm not gonna do that yet. And then again, I'm gonna save it as blue because I'm gonna use all my markers this calendar year as blue, and just go ahead and drag and drop that waypoint right to the spring. And then hit save. All right, so that's just one small mountain range that we're gonna start with. Again, just to show you guys some more features, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out on this mountain range just so we can get a bigger picture here and maybe potentially look where else we can kind of mimic and do the same thing, maybe further south on this mountain range. And as I'm scrolling to the south, you can see right here, there's a lot of open meadows. This could be potentially good areas for bulls to summer and feed. So again, if this was the area I would want to pick and I would want to scout, I would do the same process as I did on the northern part of this mountain range. And I would find a high point to just glass from. I always start with glassing and kind of go from there. So this is a perfect setup. If I was going to do it right here, I would get right on the top of this glassing point. And from there you can glass these big faces, these big basins. And again, you can see some of these timber pockets on the north slope could potentially hold bulls in their bedding areas. And like I mentioned before, those summertime velvet bulls are gonna give you a great idea of what to expect and what caliber of bulls you can expect on your unit. Now, where you find them in the velvet, like I mentioned earlier, is not always where you're gonna find them in the rut. So another couple things that we want to look for rutting elk, potentially, and this isn't going to be on every unit, but I want to show you guys what we look for when it comes to ag fields. Because for whatever reason, as the rut kicks in and the bulls move from their summer range and they're on the search for cows, the big herds of cows seem to love ag fields. And the things I've noticed that are the most successful for me is alfalfa fields, winter wheat fields later in the rut. So those are some of the things that I'll definitely use this crop data layer for, to find potential areas to hunt them in the rut. All right guys, before we jump into ag fields, I want to show you one layer that I do like when it comes to scouting elk, especially in the summer range and the rut. So burns provide excellent food source for all kinds of wildlife, deer and elk. Elk seem to love burns, and that's because of the fresh grass that it produces. And it's typically about 2 or 3 years until it gets really, really good. Sometimes it's the next year, but it all depends on how hot the fire burned. So let me just show you on the desktop how to look for burns and exactly how to turn on the layer. So right now you can see this is a picture of the area. We just dropped a glassing point, we dropped a spring, and I'm gonna go up to the top left on under layers. And you can see I've got a few states selected, and underneath the hunt tab, you can find all kinds of helpful layers. And that's where you're gonna find the wildlife and the historic wildfires layers. So you can see that they're off right now, but watch what happens when I turn them both on. One is active wildfire. I'm gonna turn that on. And the other one is historic wildfire, which is the really important one, because you're gonna wanna look for burns that are about 2 to 3 years old at least. So now that we have those layers on, we're gonna exit out of that and just slowly zoom out. And again, this is a mountain range I've never been to, so I just wanna zoom out and get a big picture of the most recent wildfires, and you can see right here. Here we go. So this is 2017 wildfire, you can see by the date, and if you click on it, it brings up all the information on the historic wildfire. So this one here just so happens to be named East Fork. It burned 21,000 acres and it started September 6, 2017, which is crazy, right when you're getting into the elk rut. So this is definitely an area, I mean, this is a giant burn, but if you can find burns in your area that aren't as big and they're more secluded and maybe they're into the wilderness, don't overlook the burns. They provide great feed, and like I mentioned, you can find them just by using those layers. All right guys, the last feature I want to show you is called crop data layers, and they do it by year. So we're going to go into the 2020 crop data layer mode. To get into there, just scroll up to the top left corner and hit map layers again. And you're going to scroll down and you can see under the my layers that I have, not the layer library. If you scroll down, you've got 0 of 9 options. Now, a lot of people are gonna probably think that this tool is just gonna be something that benefits the whitetail world, but this is gonna be huge for both mule deer and elk. And trust me, we've hunted plenty of ag fields, and it's always fun to pursue them as they leave for the evening from their bedding to the ag fields, and it's really fun to hunt them in the mornings after a whole night of rut fest, and they're heading back into dark timber, and that's when you get a chance to cut them off from their feeding, rutting area to their bedding area. So let's just take a look. Again, we're in the same general area as the unit we were in already. You can see these blue waypoints on my screen right where we already showed you guys how to set up glassing and wallow areas. And if you just slowly scroll down, again, this is a unit I've never been on, guys. I just want to show you guys what I would do if I were to start. There are 2 pivots right here, and you can see they're pivots because you got that perfect circle. And what a pivot is just like a watering system that rotates in a full circle, creating these crop circles looking things from the aerial view. First thing I notice on these 2 pivots is you have a creek running up that's going to become, in my opinion, a great travel route, a great transition area for the deer and elk to transition from the bedding to the feed. So you can see just north and a little bit northeast of that, you've got some timber pockets, which if I had to guess, these could be pine trees, maybe even junipers or cedars. So let me show you how to use the crop data layers. Again, top left corner, hit that button. Most likely these fields, if I had to guess, are going to be exactly what I was looking for, which is hay, alfalfa, or winter wheat. So let me show you what happens when we click those settings. So I'm going to start with alfalfa, and you can see those fields suddenly went green. And I'm going to exit out of that just to show you guys exactly what it looks like. So now that we have the alfalfa layer on, it looks like it highlighted these pivots, and you can see that by these green squares, and almost both of these pivots is now highlighted in like a light shade of green. So just go ahead and click that, and that's where it's going to bring up the crop data information you need. So right there it says this is alfalfa, and it's 141 acres on this pivot, and this was in the year 2020. Now again, it's not going to know exactly what it is the next year, but odds are that this pivot is going to be alfalfa in the 2021 season. So it's definitely going to be something I want to at least go look at, scout, and see if elk are hitting it in the evenings and early mornings or not. But again, we can add a waypoint, we can take a photo once we get there. There's so many features within the layer boundaries, and each waypoint you can set up, like I said, colorways and customize it to your liking. So that's one way you can use crop data, the new crop data layer, to start finding places where you can hunt elk. And again, those elk, while they're rutting, seem to use ag fields a lot for like the nighttime rutting zone. So if you can get a a concentration of elk like an ag field where they can go in the night and you can drive by and listen to them bugle, you know that in the morning they're going to be exiting those ag fields and you're going to want to find their escape routes and the transition routes. And if I had to guess right here, it's probably going to be possibly up this creek bed and into this dark timber. Okay guys, there you have it. Just a few ways that we recommend scouting for elk in an area you've never been to by using the onXhunt map. Just a reminder, in the description box you can get a 20% off when you use code HUSH. This has been such a helpful tool for us to not only scout new areas, to mark waypoints, trail cameras, and wallows that we find when we're in the field. So don't forget to make sure that everything transfers over to the mobile app, and from there, before you head afield, just make sure that you save maps on the mobile device. Save it before you get out there, that way it's saved to your phone. All your waypoints will transfer right over. Hopefully the video has helped you guys just to have a few more tips and tools in your tool belt for this elk hunting season. Good luck for you who have tags. We definitely have a handful of elk tags, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any of our elk hunts. And we'll show you guys when we're out there just how we're using the onXmap on our mobile device to help us not only scout but hunt for elk. Till next time guys, have a good one.